Okay, we're at home with Jen, who is taking out the trash.
That's right, and goodness, look at that designer sweater and jeans combo.
Oh, she is nailing that cozy casual look.
Oh, she's opening the can, and the trash is in.
She is working that driveway.
Well, with Marshall's amazing prices on designer fall fashion, no one can blame her for feeling this fabulous.
Whoa! Oh, just look at that lipstick.
Better get to Marshall's.
Oh, I'm leaving right now. Fabulous brands.
Feel good prices at Marshall's.
Still paying hundreds of dollars for prescription glasses? Let's change that. At Zenni.com, our factory direct model means no middlemen or outrageous markups. Just the same quality frames and lens options as the other guys for 1/10 the price. Zenni offers prescription glasses starting at $6.95, as well as affordable sunglasses, blue blockers, and more. The best part? Try any frame, anywhere, with our 3D virtual try-on. Visit Zenni.com today and change the way you buy glasses forever.
OJ has now been found not guilty in the criminal trial, but he wasn't so lucky in the civil trial. At this point, you would think he would want to do everything possible to avoid further trouble. Nope, not OJ. Remember the items he hid from the victims' families to avoid being sold? Karma would find a way to get even. Likely, the biggest shock of all is a book OJ helped write. It's titled, If I Did It.
When a crime is committed, evidence is always created. This evidence, no matter how big or small, is the criminal's print. Welcome to the Criminal Prints Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Criminal Prints Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Our listeners, you guys are the best. We were on episode 7 of the murders of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. In this episode, we're going to talk about the robbery that OJ committed in 2007, along with an absolutely mind-blowing book that OJ wrote titled, If I Did It. Before we get started, if you would be so kind, please leave us a 5-star review on whichever app you listen on. It's very important, it's huge for the continued growth of the podcast, and both Jaron and I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, everyone, and let's get the episode started. Now let's go to September 2007. Alfred Beardsley is a sports memorabilia collector. Alfred called Tom Riccio, a friend of OJ's and an auction owner as well. Alfred told Tom that he had some stuff from OJ's trophy room. Remember, the stuff they cleared out, a lot of that was specifically from OJ's trophy room. Next, Tom called OJ to let him know. OJ was very upset. He told Tom that those items had been stolen from him. It was not all memorabilia, there were personal artifacts too. For example, a video of OJ's first wedding and a picture of OJ with J. Edgar Hoover. Ironically enough, OJ was actually going to be in Las Vegas at the time. He was going to be in Vegas because his friend Tom Scotto was getting married.
Beardsley called Bruce Fromong, another memorabilia dealer. Beardsley told Bruce he knew an auctioneer who had a client looking to buy O.J. Simpson memorabilia. Both Beardsley and Fromong agreed to meet Tom Riccio, the auctioneer, and the potential buyer.
This was all part of OJ's plan. They didn't know exactly who they were meeting with. They just thought it was a huge OJ fan, a collector of OJ. They were to meet at the Palace Station Hotel the night of September 13th, 2007. The Palace Station Hotel is located in Las Vegas, and remember, OJ's already going to be there. Tom Riccio had already rented a room to meet in, and this room was number 1203. While everything was being organized, OJ was setting up a crew to go with him. Just how that sounds, probably not the greatest of ideas. OJ, however, was absolutely determined that he wanted to get his possessions back. Having said this, he went about it all wrong. I'm gonna add now, if you believe someone stole from you, call the police. Don't just take matters into your own hands, as tempting as it might be. Hey look, I'm human, folks. It might be extremely tempting to say, you know what, screw that, I'm gonna go get those back. Don't do it. OJ then told several of the guys that were going with him to make sure that they were packing heat. Jaron, what does that mean to you, to make sure you're packing heat?
He's telling them to bring a gun. That way it's armed robbery, which is a great idea. I want to step back really quick and point out it's pretty funny that he dispersed all this memorabilia to friends and family and put it in storage to hide it from the Goldman suit. And then his friends and his family, they sold it off. And then he wanted it back.
Yeah, you're right, Jaron. He did everything possible to make sure that he wouldn't lose it. But in the end, it looks like he quite possibly did.
Beardsley, Fromong, and Tom Riccio all met at the Palace Station Hotel. They went to room 1203 and displayed the memorabilia on the bed. Beardsley and Fromong didn't know the name of the potential buyer. OJ and a group of 5 other guys met with Tom Riccio in the hotel lobby.
Yeah, so they're there. They've got everything set up. You know, they're just waiting for this huge fan or this huge client, probably they're thinking very wealthy client, to show up and look at O.J. Simpson memorabilia. Look, I'm a huge Todd Hamill fan, greatest arena quarterback in the history of the earth. But, come on, I'm not going to go meet at a hotel and buy some Todd Hamill stuff. Goodness gracious.
O.J. and his posse entered room 1203 at 7:38 p.m. Tom Riccio secretly recorded the confrontation that was to come. We will play part of it right now.
I'll let nobody out this one. I want you to hang that fucking motherfucker. You think you can steal my shit and sell it? Don't let nobody out of here. You motherfucker. You can steal I killed you. Look at this shit. Get over there. You walk over there. Steal my shit. I'm trying to get back along. Walk your ass over there. You can steal my shit. Mike took it. I know Mike took it. I'm always on your side. I always thought you were a straight shooter. I'm cool. I am.
As you can tell, the men were extremely surprised that the potential buyer was actually O.J. Simpson himself. Michael McClinton was one of the guys with O.J. He was also one of the guys that was packing heat or had a gun on him. McClinton then put a gun in Bruce Fromong's face. Never a good idea. So Jaron, let's recap a little bit here. O.J. says, "No one leaves this room." Then a gun gets pulled out. Is that a good combination?
Nope, that is kidnapping.
Exactly. Next, they load up everything, including memorabilia that had nothing to do with OJ. For example, autographed Pete Rose baseballs and autographed Joe Montana pictures. These items had nothing to do with OJ. They were this memorabilia dealer. They were his personal items that he had over the years.
So even if at this point you believe, well, OJ was just getting his own stuff back, well, that's out the window now. Now he's stealing the other guy's stuff.
When they left, Bruce Fromong went down to the front desk. Bruce told them that O.J. Simpson and a group of guys had just robbed them. Beardsley called 911 and said, "We were just robbed at gunpoint by O.J. Simpson. Can you send police here, please?"
At first, the police didn't take it seriously. They even joked, O.J. Simpson? Who else is here? Al Cowlings?
That's actually pretty funny.
Having said this, law enforcement would soon take it very seriously. OJ was brought in for an interview with the police the next day, and of course, he was adamant it wasn't a robbery. According to OJ, he simply wanted his personal belongings back. When asked if there was any guns involved, OJ said no.
He also said that he hadn't done anything wrong. I can't agree with you on this one, OJ. Unfortunately for OJ, according to several others involved in the robbery, guns were there. On September 16th, 2007, OJ was arrested for his part in the robbery. On September 19th, 2007, OJ appeared in court. He was being charged with 12 counts related to the robbery.
His trial would begin on September 8th, 2008. He stuck to his story. He only wanted his items back. Although this time, he did admit he had made a mistake. He said that he had been stupid for taking matters into his own hands.
Oh my goodness, here's something OJ, you and I agree on for the first time. Very stupid for taking matters into his own hands.
But you may diverge your agreements at this point. He also didn't feel he had done anything illegal. He believed he was just confronting old friends in order to take his stuff back.
Doesn't this sound like a made-up story? It's kind of so crazy, it sounds like it'd be a fake story.
It does. This is what karma coming back to you sounds like.
Now let's go to October 3rd, 2008. The jury found OJ guilty on all 12 charges. To the day, it was 13 years after he was found not guilty in the criminal trial. How ironic. To the day, 13 years later. Interesting.
And on December 5th, 2008, he was sentenced to serve 33 years in prison. Even though he was sentenced to 33 years, OJ was eligible for parole in 9 years.
Here's something else that I find extremely ironic with this sentence. Remember OJ was ordered to pay $33.5 million in the civil lawsuit? Okay, so we have $33.5 million and a 33-year sentence, Jaren.
And if it wasn't for the civil lawsuit, he wouldn't have hid all his valuables. They would have just been in his home. There would have been no reason for any of this to have ever got lost. And then this, you could argue, led to him making this just brilliant decision of committing armed robbery. And it really does feel like the universe just coming back together for OJ. Karma.
Karma biting him firmly in the butt. As far as the lawsuit goes, OJ has never voluntarily gave a penny to either family. When asked about it during a TV interview, this was OJ's response. He said, quote, "I've said this so many times. If I have to work to pay them, I won't work. It's that simple. I'll play golf every day," close quote. Ouch.
Keep it classy, OJ.
The auction for selling off some of OJ's memorabilia and personal items was actually held in February of 1999. It did bring in roughly $430,000. But we got a few issues here. The purpose of it was to pay part of the $33.5 million. Well, obviously $430,000 and $33.5 million is a very small fraction. Also, most of the money from the $430 went towards lawyer and auction fees. Something else is interesting is OJ's NFL pension is protected, so the families can't get anything from it.
The value of this lawsuit has increased over time, and OJ now owes somewhere around $70 million. The Goldmans did receive the rights to a book that he helped write. The title of the book is a little eyebrow-raising, and it's a little hard to believe that they would name it this, but it's true. It is named If I Did It.
According to OJ, it's a hypothetical, which he said many times, account of how he could have killed Nicole and Ron. The book itself was originally going to be published on November 30th, 2006. This did not happen. There was an outrage both with the public and the victims' families. Let me say, for very good reason. This is going to bring up a lot of memories and a lot of stuff that they don't want brought up. Many people believed it was wrong for OJ to benefit financially from this book. In the eyes of many, including a civil trial jury, OJ was responsible for their murders. Fox even had done an interview with OJ talking about this book in 2006. But along with the book, this interview was delayed as well. It didn't actually air until March 11th, 2018. We'll talk more about this interview with Fox shortly. Let's get into specifics about this book, Jaren. July 2007 is when the Goldman family received the rights to If I Did It. They made some minor changes to it, but didn't touch the script. They didn't change anything on the script.
One of the changes was the cover of the book. The name remained If I Did It, however, it now reads I Did It, with the if being in the dot of the I.
Underneath the title, they added another change. It now says, Confessions of the Killer. If you've heard anything about the Goldmans or are familiar with them, they refer to OJ as simply the killer. The book starts out with OJ saying, "No one knows the story the way he knows it." On a side note, OJ, I believe you on this one. OJ was asked about the night of the murders. He said that after Sydney's dance recital, he was in a bad mood. As a reminder, he wasn't invited to the family dinner afterwards. Personally, I can see OJ being extremely butthurt that he wasn't invited to this family dinner. In the book, OJ had a partner with him that night of the murders. He said that his partner's name was Charlie. I can't help but wonder if Charlie is actually OJ. Here's what OJ said happened that horrible night. They drove his white Ford Bronco and parked in the alley. OJ put on a stocking cap and gloves, we know both of which were found at the crime scene. Next, OJ grabbed a knife that he kept underneath his seat. He explained that he kept the knife under the seat for protection if needed. Supposedly, at this point, Charlie grabbed the knife from OJ. OJ entered the property through the back gate. Does this sound familiar?
OJ said he could see lit candles inside Nicole's condo. Nicole also was playing music in the background. It looked as though she was expecting company. OJ then sees a guy walking in that he doesn't know. Goldman then told OJ that he just came by to drop off some glasses. This is all hypothetical, of course.
Yes, it's hypothetical, but it does sound a little ironic.
They then started to argue, and Nicole walked out. Nicole tells OJ it's her house and he needs to leave. This infuriates him. Nicole falls and OJ starts fighting with Ron. OJ said he had previously grabbed the knife from Charlie.
Next, OJ claims that he blacked out. How incredibly convenient, Jaren. What he remembers next was holding a bloody knife. OJ was completely covered in blood. According to OJ, he had never seen so much blood before in his life. Before leaving the crime scene, OJ said he took off his pants, shirt, and shoes. He claims to have then put these clothes into a tight bundle along with the knife. OJ said he kept the socks on because he didn't see any blood on them. Well, ironically enough, what was found on his socks at his house?
Blood.
Exactly.
They then got into his Bronco and rushed to his Rockingham home. When they got there, he told Charlie to get rid of the bundle for him. OJ then snuck inside and took a shower. When he finally answered, he told Alan Park, the limo driver, he had accidentally slept in. If you haven't watched his interview with Fox, we highly recommend it.
I've watched it a bunch of times, and I highly recommend it. I find parts of it extremely interesting. At the beginning of the interview, OJ said everything was hypothetical several times. Although as the interview continued, he seemed to let his guard down. OJ started talking more in first person, and here are a few examples. They asked OJ about removing his glove. OJ responded, quote, "You know, I have no conscious memory of doing that, but obviously I must have because they found a glove there," close quote.
And they didn't just hypothetically find a glove there, they actually found a glove there.
That they certainly did. When asked if OJ believed in an afterlife and would see Nicole again, he said yes. OJ continued, "Look at these kids. Look at Sydney with no mother. I've done that. I've done that." Jaren, here's my question to OJ. It would be, you did what?
Did you kill Nicole? Did you take away Sydney's mother? For an innocent person to make that statement seems strange. And for an innocent person to write this book seems really strange, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very strange. Seems like somebody that's guilty that simply wants to cash out on the fame of the case. On July 20th, 2017, OJ had a parole hearing. We will play part of it for you now.
I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about victim empathy and alternative to violence and how it will benefit you in the future.
Well, as I said, the alternative to violence courses, I've always thought I've been pretty good with people, and I've basically spent a conflict-free life. You know, I'm not a guy that ever got into fights on the street and with the public and everybody, but as I said, they give you a bunch of little tools about how to talk to people instead of fighting, instead of throwing punches. Tools that I've used here that, you know, is how you talk to people, it's the tone that you use.
OJ said he basically lived a conflict-free life. What a shocking thing to say. I have never committed armed robbery. I will never commit armed robbery. It's an impossibility. I will never murder my wife. That is an impossibility. But, to be fair, he wasn't actually convicted of that, was he?
Although he was found responsible for it by a civil trial.
Apparently, OJ's definition of a conflict-free life and my definition, and I'm sure yours, Zach, they're completely different, aren't they?
They are definitely different. And, of course, being a wife beater and the prime suspect in a double homicide, I'd say this 1,000% disproves his statement of a conflict-free life. The parole board, however, did decide in OJ's favor. They pointed out that he'd been a model prisoner. According to one of the members of the parole board, Tony Corda, OJ was at low risk to reoffend.
I would agree. As long as everything goes his way 100% of the time, he will probably not reoffend.
OJ was released from prison on October 1st, 2017. He had served 9 years of his 33-year prison sentence. That wraps up episode 7 of The Murders of Nicole and Ron. We hope that everyone is enjoying the series so far. We have one additional episode on the case that will be released next week. Once again, I want to personally thank everybody for listening. It means the world to us. Most importantly, everybody stay safe and have an absolutely fantastic week.
And remember, keep your record clean and your prints off the scene.
When you vote in Virginia, you can vote with confidence knowing every election is safe, secure, and accessible. Our certified election registrars and volunteers follow strict processes and procedures to make sure every vote counts. These safeguards include validating registered voters during early, absentee, and election day voting, voting machines that are never connected to the internet, and ballot boxes that are locked and sealed. Learn more at vote.virginia.gov.
Si tú y tus amigos ordenan de McDonald's juntos, deja que los demás agarren su comida primero. Yo sé, el solo pensar en el olor de las papitas y tener que esperar para meter tu mano en la caja y sacar unas suena loco. Pero por regla, si eres la última persona que sostiene la bolsa, entonces las papitas que se cayeron al fondo de la bolsa son tuyas. La paciencia paga, amigos. Para pa pa pa.